Hello Magic the Gathering players, this is Maelstrom MTG, back again with some Modern on Budget. Today we're talking about Mardu Pyromancer, and I've wanted to do a list like this for a while, but we just got a card printed that makes me very, very excited for something like this. Because the problem with Pyromancer and why we don't see it a ton is because we see that it has one toughness, and that's just so many things can kill it. So, the new card, which I'm very excited about, is Sideboard Witch, which is a 3-drop 3/2, so already better. 2 toughness means that Lava Dart can't kill it unless they double cast it. But it also has Menace. It also has Ward, which makes double casting a lot harder, because they'll have to pay 6 life. But Sedgemoor, if you don't know what Ward is, if it becomes targeted, the ability, the spell gets countered unless they pay the ward cost. For this, it's pay 3 life. So in order to target it with a kill spell, they're gonna have to pay 3 life. If they want to double Lava Dart it, then they're gonna have to pay 6 life. Anyway, so we do have that. So Pyromancer, if you don't really know the deck very well, Pyromancer, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you're going to create an elemental. Now, Witch says whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, you're going to create a 1/1. Now, we're not doing a whole lot of copying. That is a different deck I want to play, but that's a very, very different deck. But what this is going to do is it's going to create us, it's going to give us a pest every time we cast something, and that pest, when it dies, is going to gain us life. So that's a little way that we can sustain ourselves. You'll see that we take a lot of damage from our own stuff in this deck, and so being able to gain a little bit life back is amazing. Then we have Magmatic Channeler as our other creature. We do have Gigantha, by the way, but I'll get to that in a moment. The main board, Magmatic Channeler, is going to give us a way to have a board presence while also having card advantage. We're not able to play Seasoned Pyromancer, which draws cards, creates tokens, gets graveyard use. Like, it's a very powerful card, but Magmatic Channeler is going to give us a board presence, and it's going to do our best to give us a little bit of card advantage by tapping, discard a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library, then choose one of them. You may play that card this turn. Now, that's going to give us a lot of opportunity to do things. It's going to give us the ability to get stuff in our graveyard if we need it. We have a few things that really get powerful with this card. Like, you don't want to necessarily cast Smiting Helix for 4 mana, but you might end up doing it. But that's an easy card to discard. It also lets us discard our lands if we top deck lands. We are running 21, but like I wanted some more lands on here just to make sure that we got our made sure that we were better off. You could go to 20, maybe even 19 if you have the cards for an expensive mana base. But if you don't, I highly suggest keeping it at the 21 count because it gives you more of a chance of getting the colors you need. Now, we do have Gigantha because it slots right in. I was at 14 cards in the sideboard, and I was like, what do I add in? And I was like, wait, is there a companion that fits? And Gigantha's right there. And what Gigantha actually does is Gigantha allows us to have even more of a board presence because most of our things are going to be 1/1s. So Gigantha comes in as a 5/5. And we have a lot of removal, hand disruption, whatever. And so having a 5/5, it's kind of like, okay, now here's our big creature, and I'm killing all of your creatures. I'm making you discard all your answers. You're not going to be able to deal with Gigantha. And then Gigantha swings in. Now, Gigantha is not the big point of the deck, but really, like, was not at all. Like, Gigantha was a last-minute include, and I definitely think that works really well in this deck. For our spells, we have Duress for hand attack. We have Inquisition and Kozilek for hand attack. and both of those things are very, very powerful in Modern. We do have the ability to play these on turn 1. Very powerful. We have Fatal Push to destroy a creature. And then we do have we have a lot of tiny creatures, and so the likelihood is we have Revolt at some point. So if we really need it, we get Revolt eventually. Otherwise, we are going to be able to just kill whatever threat we really need to deal with. Next up is 4 Lightning Bolt, because like, why wouldn't we run it? It's one of the, I think it's the only 4 of that's not a creature in the deck, a creature or land. Like, it's the only spell that's a 4 of in the deck, and it's definitely earned its spot. It's 3 damage to any target, and that's incredibly powerful. Next up is Unearth, because you know what? Sometimes your opponent will devote 6 life into double lava darting your Sedgemoor Witch. And what better way to respond to that than just returning it right back to the battlefield. So I want to find a way to fit more of these in here, but it is kind of just okay, you know what, they killed our Pyromancer or they killed our Witch, so let's just return it. So it's kind of a last resort, but it's also kind of just a way to keep it going. Village Rites, so that we can sacrifice any of our tokens to draw 2 cards. This is another way we're going to attempt to make up for the Seasoned Pyromancer that's missing, and I really like this. It'll trigger our things. Sadly, we cannot cast this and trigger our Sedgemoor and Young Pyromancer to sacrifice the token it makes. We actually have to cast something else. It's just still a very, very powerful card. Next up is probably one of the best cards to tackle the format with right now, and I wish I could fit more of them in here, like maybe 1 in sideboard, 3 in the main, in my ideal list. But it's just it's an incredibly powerful card because it's hand attack, it's creature hate, and it's life drain. And making your opponent discard an instant sorcery, that's incredibly powerful against prowess and burn especially. And then you can also make a creature just die. Lightning Helix, deal 3, gain 3. Same thing as Lightning Bolt, except it adds a little bit of sustainability, especially since we're going to be losing a lot of life from our lands. Terminate as a way to kind of... I didn't want to lean so heavily into one color. I kind of wanted to divide it up. You could do Fatal Push, but I really like Terminate because it does hit anything. You could also definitely go with the sorcery, what's it called, like Dreadbore, to be able to hit Planeswalkers as well. You could go Eliminate. You could go a number of things here. I just decided to go Terminate because I really like the card. Next up is 3 Lingering Souls. In the original list, I had 4, but I decided that it wasn't exactly what I was going for here. I have twice the number of Pyromancers in the deck, so I focused more on a reactive plan of dealing with what our opponents have, and so I kind of stepped away from all of the spirits and all the token creating in the spells. That being said, it's still a 3 of, and it's a very powerful card. You get double use out of it, and if you really need to discard something to Collector Brutality or Magmatic Channeler, you could always discard Lingering Souls. There is a flashback. Next up is Smiting Helix, which is very similar to Lightning Helix, except it has flashback for that. So it's a 4-drop sorcery. Most of the time you probably will end up discarding it, but it does have flash black, white, and red to deal 3, gain 3, and it's just an extra way to get value. I really like this card, and I don't know, it's just it's hard to say a lot about this card because it's so straightforward. Anyway, you'll see that we do have a lot of discard, we have a lot of removal, we have a lot of damage, card draw, and token producing across the board. Our lands, as I said, it was going to be very painful, so bear with me. We have Battlefield Forge to add white-red, Pathway to add black-red, Caves of Koilos to add white-black. There we go with the Pain lands again. We do have Evolving Wilds, 1 plains, 4 mountains, and 4 swamps. I really wish that I could make this much better than it already is. Like right now, like you're not going to get much better on a budget, and so you might decide that the lands really aren't for you. And if so, I fully encourage you to try to find some sort of replacement for the Pain lands, because I don't like them very much, but they're still very viable, especially with all the life gained in our deck. We have Witch, and we have Lightning Helix, and we have Smiting Helix. And so I personally feel that we can afford it. That being said, some people just don't like that kind of card, so you can choose what you want to do. For your sideboard, though, we do have Tormod's Crypts for Graveyard Hate. We have Cling to Dust for Graveyard Hate. The difference between these two is that Tormod's Crypt is if you just need to wipe the entire graveyard. An example of that is Dredge, where Cling to Dust, there might be 1 or 2 things in your opponent's graveyard, like pesky, it might be like a pesky instant or sorcery, or maybe you need to bring this in so that you can gain some extra life against a burn deck. Like, you're able to gain life. Celestial Purge, because of all of the aggro and mid-range decks, it doesn't matter if they pump up their creatures in prowess if you're exiling them. A big problem I have with red decks going against prowess is that they just pump up the creature when you try to bolt it. So you have to go around that, and you have to exile their creature. And this way, any mid-range deck that runs Lurrus also gets hit because they can't play from exile. Cleansing Wildfire as a way to deal with any Tron decks that might be lurking around, and it also replaces itself in your hand and triggers Magmatic Channeler. I really try, not Magmatic Channeler, literally the only creature in our deck that doesn't have a trigger, but it triggers Pyromancer or Witch. And the biggest thing that this has going for it against any other spell that does the same thing is that it replaces itself. You draw a card. Then we have Lightning Helix, a way to gain a little more life. We might bring these in against Burn. We'll probably take out the Smiting Helixes, bring in the Lightning Helixes, just so that we can make sure that we are casting it when we need it, like as early as possible. Roiling Vortex as a way to deal with combo decks as well as control decks and slower decks, and also just Heliod and Company. I know that's technically a combo deck, and I already said combos, but I just don't like that deck. And for a deck like this, you might really struggle against it. So Roiling Vortex is a way to deal with that. It also works really nicely against against Cascade cards like Bloodbraid Elf, because your opponent will completely forget that Roiling Vortex, that middle part, will deal 5 damage to them if they do that. This also really can come in handy against Hammer Time because of all of their 0 drops. And so keep in mind, look at every single part of every card in this deck and make sure you find those extra uses. Anyway, this was an incredibly fun deck to build and to just tinker around with. I really want to play with it more. I like the idea. I think one of my favorite parts of the deck, for no reason at all, is being able to Sedgemoor Witch. They just double lava dart it, and then you just bring it right back with Unearth. For some reason, I really like that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the list. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment how stupid you think this deck is, whether it's a good stupid, bad stupid. I'm open to listening as long as it's constructive. I will see you later.